My friends, he's finally done it. NiKo won Cologne. Sure, it wasn't a major, but I'd argue it's the next best thing. He got to sing CSGO's final swan song, winning one of the most prestigious trophies in esports history before we take the first step into the next chapter of CS. The only question is, are we actually done with CSGO now? When I did my wrap-up of Cologne in 2022, I said that the tournament has the power to sometimes feel more important than an actual major. And I still think that's true. There's just something about the arena, the history, and the atmosphere. We always seem to get some of the best Counter-Strike right here. And this year was shaping up to be no different. All of the storylines were here, and there was a certain finality in the air. But before we get into all that, we need to start from the beginning, because a tournament this climactic deserves some explanation. And boy, were there a lot of question marks heading into Germany. On top of the uncertainty around CS2's release, Cologne was coming off the tail of a player break that saw massive changes. Liquid is out of North America. Navi signed Alexi B. Fallen? He's still playing. Some seriously crazy shit was going on. And if your team wasn't one of the ones making these significant moves, a poor result at Cologne would quickly change that. You see, many believed that Cologne was going to be the final S-tier tournament of CSGO's life. So now is the time for teams to make a move and end on a high note so they can carry some momentum into Counter-Strike 2. However, for some, that sense of urgency just didn't seem there. I'm not saying that teams like Complexity, Furia, and Liquid need to be making the finals after making big changes like this, but exiting without making any points is just not enough from these guys. Listen, Counter-Strike is a hard game, and now more than ever you get hit with some very skilled opponents right out the gate, but I couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. Now, Navi was another team that made really big changes, and to be fair, at times things did look pretty rough. No one, including Simple, really performed to the level that they're capable of. But with Alexi B coming in as IGL and the team turning to a more international roster, they did still manage to knock out a team like FaZe.
Brokey pinched between two spots, and one of them is Simple. He met on Monster, jumps around, and Brokey goes back to die, to fall, to fail in Cologne.
Then we have Astralis. Since their original disbanding, the team has been one big question mark. Despite having the talent, they haven't been able to secure a result even worth noting. When Device came back, hopes were high, but many were skeptical, including myself, on his ability to perform after such a long break. But as we all know now, Device is rust-proof. Throughout the year, even as Astralis continued to struggle, Device was providing standout performances. However, after making some difficult but necessary changes to the roster leading up to Cologne, it seemed as if things were finally clicking for the boys. With Buzz and Blamaf providing the proper support necessary, Device was able to do what he does best.
Device trying to find impact with his AWP, and oh, stare, caught out, one back, need more. Okay, Device is up. Puts Stiko on the floor, kicks and dumping nades, and Device hunting frags. Oh, a lineup, collateral, 4 from Device.
Not only did Astralis knock out Navi, but once the playoffs began, they continued their run by 2-0ing Heroic. Unfortunately for all the Device and Astralis fans, their brilliant run was cut short thanks to a team with even more to prove: G2. Despite winning Kato earlier that year, NiKo and friends were gutted by their lackluster performance at CSGO's final major. The reality that NiKo would never get his CSGO major had set in, and the team's performances started to take a nosedive. It was unclear whether the team was just reeling or if they were in desperate need of a shakeup. My guess is that the result of Cologne was going to answer that question. But right out of the gate, G2 looked focused. Everyone was carrying their weight in different times in their own ways, and it brought them all the way to the grand finals without a loss. On the other side of things were the consistently underestimated ENCE, and after defeating the Paris major champions to make it there, proved once again that they are in fact the real deal. So, who is going to win? The perennial underdogs or the cursed chokers? Well, if it wasn't already clear in the matches leading up to the grand finals, NiKo was clearly there to make a statement. His last chance to win a major slipped through his fingers, and his win at Kato was looking like a distant flash in the pan. Winning Cologne was his final opportunity to show the world why we cared about him in the first place. And folks, NiKo was out for blood.
The bomb's heading A! And NiKo's caught Diha in rotation. It's really not easy for Madden. He won't be able to stop that plant. JKS is set up as a turret. Not anymore, he's not. And NiKo's still catching rotations.
This gets dicey now. Diha has
Awkward.
flashes.
Super awkward now. Nice from NiKo. Catches Diha on the way in. Only the P2K for Snappy as NiKo doesn't need to see his opponent, but Nertz nails it with the Deagle. Has Sunpius done enough? Can they really recover this with only the one rifle? NiKo doesn't think so. Util deployed. NiKo poised, needs a tap, and in signature NiKo fashion, he's made it a one-on-one. Nertz, what have you got for us? He's off the bomb. NiKo strikes a step closer to the crown.
Despite clawing out a win on map 3, ENCE just didn't have an answer for the combined firepower of both m0NESY and NiKo. Together, the two had a combined 183 kills and both got plus 1.4 ratings. And for their efforts, they got to walk home with what might be CSGO's final farewell.
Bask in this moment, because ladies and gentlemen, G2 are your IEM Cologne champions of 2023!
Now, how will this affect NiKo's legacy? Well, that all depends on what you value and how you really look at things. NiKo already has his fair share of silverware, and winning Cologne just netted him yet another MVP award. If he retires tomorrow, he'll have a better career than 99% of players. And if this ends up being CSGO's final big LAN event, that's a pretty damn cool achievement. However, that still is a pretty big if. You see, despite Cologne having an epic atmosphere, machine in a tailed suit, and a literal moment of silence for the death of CSGO, we still have no idea when CS2 is coming out and what that transition is going to look like. At one point, we thought Dallas was going to be the final event, but 2 months later, and I'm still here talking CSGO. Now, there are some smaller events that are obviously going to be played in CSGO, but we still have IEM Sydney and Blast later this year. Hell, Pro League is in 3 weeks. If CS2 comes out before then, will the switch be instantaneous? Does Valve let the pro scene continue with Go until they feel comfortable enough to make the switch? And if so, how long does that take? There does seem to be some time in September where a transition and release period could be viable, but knowing Valve, nothing's a certainty. Regardless, I personally think ripping it off like a band-aid is the best bet. Listen, it's never going to be a perfect time to release CS2, and regardless of when it does, someone's going to be upset. All I know is that Cologne was a banger, and although the moment of silence does feel a bit premature, that was the last time in the cathedral until the next era of Counter-Strike. Unless Valve somehow f***ed up this release, like, really badly. But that's not going to happen. Right? Truth be told, I wanted ENCE to win. Just an easy for ENCE meme for the last Cologne would be pretty hilarious. They're a great team, but boy, that was a big spanking. There's been worse, but that was bad. And NiKo got his Cologne. And for that, I'm happy for him.